This is Brave Words, True Stories Told Well. I'm Adrian Ferreira.
And I'm Rob Carlton. This week's storyteller is Debra Oswald. Deb is a novelist, screenwriter, playwright and creator of the TV series Offspring, two-time winner of the New South Wales Premier's Literary Award. Deb has published 9 children's books and 4 adult novels, including The Family Doctor, and most recently, 100 Years of Betty. Her stage plays include Gary's House, Dags and Stories in the Dark. Television credits include Police Rescue and Bananas in Pyjamas. Deb performed her one-woman show, Is There Something Wrong with That Lady?, at the Griffin Theatre and the Ensemble.
This story was recorded live at the Avoca Beach Theatre in Avoca.
Sex is a wonderful thing. I think we can all agree on that, yes? And sex is important. One of my theories is that all human endeavour, writing books, composing symphonies, scientific research, everything, it's all driven by the conscious or unconscious urge to get more offers of sex. And this makes evolutionary sense. Bird species develop brilliant plumage in order to attract mates and so have more chance of passing on their genes. And so it is with humans. We strut about and shimmy our beautiful plumage in the hope it will attract sexual offers. From an early age, I feared that attracting sexual partners was going to be a special challenge for me because I regarded myself as a dumpy grey bird. Picture me at 15, wearing a powder blue terry toweling tracksuit, which was possibly doing me no favours. Oh, Mum, I'm so fat and ugly. What am I going to do? Well, my mother replied, you'll just have to develop a nice personality. and by the by, there you see the parenting that made me the fine mental health specimen you see before you. At 15, I was desperate to be a writer, and I accepted that there would be sometimes the need to include sex scenes in things I wrote. So in my teens, I diligently studied Clio magazine. So I was well up on the theory, techniques and positions. I eventually convinced a few individuals of the male persuasion to help me further my research in a practical field study. But this was still a very small sample. Not enough of a sample of sexual activity for me to write colourful and convincing sex scenes. When I was a student, I worked at an RSL club pouring beers. And can I just say, I was discussing this with Luke. Luke talked about his father being involved in porn and prawn events. Well, honestly, we didn't cook this up between us. This is a legit coincidence. At the Paddington RSL Club in the early 1980s, they used to run a thing called the Porn and Prawn Morning, and it was 9 a.m. on a Sunday in the windowless upstairs auditorium. So it was a legit thing. It wasn't in some sort of Luke's father's backyard, Marrickville warehouse. This was legit. I was wearing my bartender black and whites. So the patrons paid a flat fee to scoff prawns served in white paper parcels straight from the fish market while they watched porn movies projected onto a small screen on a metal stand. Schooners, prawns and pornography and a drafty club auditorium at 9 a.m. Each to their own. But anyway, I figured this was a boon. This was a chance for me to get more how people do it, tips from watching the porn. And that could inform my writing. But it turned out the picture quality was subpar. And with all the slurping of beer and the crunching of prawn heads by 24 elderly gents, it was hard to hear the dialogue. And look, I quickly learned that love scenes in movies are not a reliable source of intel to help me write authentic sex scenes. I mean, all that slamming each other against walls Is that what people really do in real life? They must end up so bruised. And lovers on screen were always scowling as if they were in pain. I guess because of the bruising. As for my own real-life research, limited. I've been shacked up with the same man, Richard Glover, for almost 46 years, since I was 21. So what do I know about what other people are up to? I'm usually bold about asking questions for stuff I'm writing, but it's tricky to ask your friends, where do you put your hands? How many thrusts? Can you please demonstrate your sex noises to help me with the scene I'm writing? And then whenever I did have a go at a sex scene in a script or a novel, I always worried, will my friends think, oh, well, that must be how Debra does it. oh dear. So I decided that writing sex is just too exposing, too embarrassing. Better not to try. I decided to focus on books and stage plays for children. No sex scenes required. In fact, sex scenes are actively frowned upon. But then, an old project of mine that had gone flaccid. Offspring. Well, it sprang back to a full erection and penetrated my life. A TV show like Offspring needed quite a lot of saucy shenanigans. Often the sexual encounters were comic or meant to be bad, and those were easier for me to write. But sometimes there would be an important non-comic sex scene, and I would want my script to convey to the cast and crew the atmosphere it should be and explain what the scene needed to be in terms of previous story. So I might have a go at putting a paragraph of explanation in the big print, that's the stage directions. I didn't want to be too prescriptive, and there was no need for me to spell out the choreography. That's a big advantage of writing sex scenes in TV. Writers get off lightly. I could leave it up to the actors and the director to make hand placement choices, improvise character-appropriate noises, and the editor could decide later, once we had the music track, what the rate of thrusting should be. On a TV series, there's a process called the table read, when the whole cast gathers around a sort of gigantic table to read the next episode out loud. It's a chance for everyone to hear how it sounds and consider rewrites. For one particular Offspring table read, I'd written the script for episode 7 of season 2. And my writing colleague Michael, as was customary, was reading out just a few of the stage directions to set each scene. See, I'm dry mouthed just imagining it, just thinking about it. We got up to a key romantic moment for main characters Nina and Patrick. Usually, Michael would just do a brief summary. Interior, Patrick's apartment, night, Nina and Patrick have sex. But instead, and then we would move on, to the next sort of proper dialogue scene. But on this occasion, instead of rapidly moving on, Michael, in order to torture me, Michael started reading aloud every word of stage direction I'd written. There's some more kissing, some unbuttoning and removal of clothing. It's not flirty or awkward. They are surprisingly assured with each other. The need is great, leaving no room for doubt or analysis or game playing. Please remember, there were about 25 people gathered round the table, most of them absurdly attractive, sort of movie star gorgeous. Suddenly, I was sitting there, feeling like that dumpy 15-year-old in a powder blue terry toweling tracksuit who was still working on her personality to make up for lack of attractiveness. All while 24 drop-dead beautiful individuals were staring at me. The dumpy middle-aged lady who had, in the privacy of her home office, spent hours imagining Asher Keddy and Matt Neves doing it. My face burning with mortification, I punched Michael on the arm quite hard to make him stop reading. But no matter how violently I assaulted him, he kept reading those stage directions aloud. Nina and Patrick have sex. It's not romantic sex. It's hungry, fervent sex between grown-ups. It's not the enthusiastic Labrador sex Nina had with Fraser. It's not the flirty, soft-focus style of her almost sex with Chris. It should feel instinctive, passionate, utterly mutual, with no hesitation or need for discussion. And it should be very, very good. Okay? Ha. I actually wrote okay, ha, in the script. That humiliation of Debra went on to become a beloved tradition. At book launches for my novels, Michael has kindly flown up from Melbourne to read one of the sex scenes in the book aloud, to embarrass me as a public ritual. And I reckon that ritual has become a sort of desensitisation therapy. Yes, writing sex scenes is difficult and exposing, but that's got to be better than conjuring up a weird, sad story world where no one's getting any. Sex is important. Having an uncomfortable go at writing about it is better than not trying at all. With my most recent novel, as I was drafting the sex scenes, I found myself imagining my colleague Michael reading them aloud in a room full of my friends and family. And imagining that moment would make me laugh, make me get out of my own way, and I'd thrust on with the job. In my most recent book, one of the main suspense storylines is when and how the main character Betty will experience her first orgasm. When she does, it's a major plot point, as it should be. After that climactic moment, Betty does go on to experience some bad sex, which she describes. Sometimes after a few dates, things would progress as far as sex. I'd have some fun, but I did have some fun, but it must be said, on most occasions I was treated to a whole new world of awkwardness and disappointment. Let's just say my breasts endured a lot of clumsy handling and my nether regions were pounded with limited finesse. One of my sexual partners avoided eye contact and was utterly silent during the act, emitting no sound, even breathing inaudibly, until he finally said in a flat, mechanical voice, "I'm sticking it in you now." Another bloke was much more loquacious during our sexual encounter, barracking like a football coach, urging himself on as he thrust away. "Go, Derek. Come on, mate. You can do this, Derek." I did not sign up for a rematch with Derek. Oh, I should point out, that's all based on stories I've heard. It's not how Richard and I do it. I also bravely had a go at giving my character what I hope comes across as enjoyable sex. I'd be too embarrassed to read those scenes aloud to you now. But if you do happen to read the book, please be kind about my writing of sex. Much of it is based on research from 1970s issues of Clio, or pink bits I happen to glimpse at the Porn and Prod morning. Or it's the product of pure imagination. But the best bits are how Richard and I do it. And look, let me just say, that Nina Patrick sex scene from Offspring that I talked about earlier, it turned out pretty steamy on screen. The Wednesday night the episode first aired, I think a lot of people got lucky after watching that scene. I mean, so arguably my work on Earth is done. Look, watch for yourself, out of my head and into your fantasies. You're welcome.
Such a great story. Thank you, Deb Oswald. It was just a delight to have you in the house that night, and a delight to have Richard there too, and for us to be imagining the two of you steaming it up.
That was so fun, that story. I mean, that's just a great example, isn't it, of a very, very, very smart person wandering through life with a sense of joy and curiosity and so happy to throw herself under the bus.
And bravery, right?
Right.
You know, she's asking questions and putting it out there, trying to get it down in the way that she hopes is going to work, and, suffering kind of public embarrassments and...
Oh, she's just so funny.
She's so funny. She's a comic genius. She's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, just those, little areas. So, obviously this is a literary podcast, so it's important we learn collocation, the choice of certain words from that same bracket of the world to help tell your story. So when she talks about a project being flaccid and it suddenly bounced back fully erect and penetrated her life, just like little details like that. So if you're out there thinking about stories, these are, have a listen to that story again. There's so many ways Deb really lightly and playfully extracts all the humour from it.
Yes, I think we're certainly glad that she worked on her personality and her writing skills, even though that was a bit of a sad bit of advice from her mum. But it also, from the reaction in the audience, was a bit of a familiar trope, I think, from that generation of mothers, just helping their daughters the best they could.
Oh, dearie me. I love that bit there where she was discussing the porn and prawn on a Sunday morning.
9 a.m.
What is going on? But the slurping of the beers and the crunching of the prawn heads.
You couldn't hear the dialogue.
Because the sound wasn't. So, once again, she was thwarted.
So funny.
Oh, dearie me. Now, actually, the sex scene that she wrote for Asher Keddy and Matt Neves, those two characters, clearly it worked because those two characters were much loved. I happened to be at work with Matt Neves the morning after, spoiler alert, his character died on Offspring. Man, the world was in meltdown that day, and everything blew up on set. His phone was going crazy. The world couldn't believe really, I guess, what Deb Oswald had decided to do with that character. And it was, the journey those two characters went on and all of that, but an integral part of that was the stormy, steamy sex stuff that Deb had put in. So she clearly did a job well. She did. Thank you so much, Deb, for being part of our show. Yeah, and thanks so much to Richard and Deb for coming up to Avoca Beach Theatre, joining us for our Brave Words storytelling nights. You enriched our community and we loved having you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening, everyone. Bye.